Let's turn to Ephesians and chapter 5. Ephesians and chapter 5. We'll read a few verses from that chapter. We read from verse 1. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savour. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. For this you know, that no whoremonger, no unclean person, no covetous man, with an idolater hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. For you were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his word. We'll get into the third seminar. From yesterday we did fourth seminar actually. We did three seminars. So this is the fourth seminar. And the seminar is, should Christians drink? By drinking there we mean drinking alcohol. Should Christians drink alcohol? That is the seminar for today. Now, this question of drinking alcohol, 2 centuries ago, 200 years ago, many Christians did not even entertain taking alcohol in moderation. They abstained completely, generally. Of course, we are not saying every Christian as a general rule. And even in this country, in the 70s and early 80s, I believe, when the Spirit of the Lord moved in this country, a number of believers would have nothing to do with alcohol intake to whatever degree. But in the last 40 years, or 30 years ago, there has been a change. There are many who challenge the view that Christians should not take alcohol, even in moderation. The view that has been held by so many Christians is challenged today. I have come across believing Christians, Bible-believing Christians, who believe that the Bible does not forbid drinking alcohol as long as one takes it in moderation. That is the view. They will even challenge you, show me a verse in the Bible that says that one should not drink alcohol. They will say that what the Bible condemns is drunkenness. If a person is taking alcohol at home, in their bedroom, they are not going to the bar, to the pub, that is acceptable to some believers. Now, there are two sets of arguments I'm going to use to prove that Christians should abstain from alcohol in whatever degree. They should not take alcohol even in moderation, should abstain from it completely. And there are a number of arguments that I will bring out. Now, the first 5 arguments cannot be disputed. The other 5, which I'll bring out from the New Testament, they can be challenged. They are also very strong arguments. So I'll start with arguments that cannot be disputed, things which you and me should agree upon right away. The first set of arguments then. Number 1, alcoholic drinks have moved from the category of beneficial to the category of being harmful. That is my first argument. If you've read the Old Testament, we would read of the people of God taking alcohol generally in moderation. And down history, people have taken alcohol in moderation. But now, that is no longer the case. There was a time when alcohol would be used for celebrations, but as things stand now, it's no longer beneficial. Alcohol is no longer beneficial, but rather it is grossly harmful. And because of that, because it's doing so much harm worldwide, for that very reason, believers should not take alcohol. One may say, well, there are so many good things that can harm believers. Intake of too much food can harm believers. That is true, but in comparison, when you compare gluttony, the sin of gluttony, and the sin of drunkenness or taking in of alcohol, which one will have more disastrous consequences? I believe it is the intake of alcohol. And therefore, for that reason, this must be avoided. In the Bible, we are given certain guidelines. And these are things which believers normally do not even take into account. We are to ask questions like, is it morally right to take alcohol, to go to a party where alcohol will be in abundance? Is it morally acceptable? Is it also beneficial? Is it also profitable? Or will the intake of alcohol bring me into slavery? Those are questions we should ask ourselves. Because if you go to Philippians chapter 4, the Apostle Paul says, whatever is noble, whatever is good, think on these things. And if we ask such questions regarding the intake of alcohol, is it morally acceptable? Is it profitable? The answer will be no. Alcohol intake is one of the main factors in the deaths. And that's why we are saying there was a time when men took alcohol in moderation, when it wasn't as dangerous as it is now. In this country, at the end of the year, the police they produce a report about road accidents. And one of the things that come out from that report is that most accidents happen when people drive under the influence of alcohol in Zambia. It's one of the main factors in the deaths of children, in homes where parents take alcohol. There will be violence, divorce, violence, crime. If I could personalize alcohol, if I could speak of it as a person, I would say alcohol is cruel. So it's no longer something that is beneficial. It is harmful, generally speaking. So it has moved from being beneficial to being harmful over the years. And as believers, we cannot continue with that. There are many things. For instance, dancing. In and of itself, there may be nothing wrong with dancing. But look at the dances which are being performed today. Seductive kind of dancing, sexual kind of dancing. Here in Lusaka, we have a custom called Chilanga Mulilo. Where a person who is intending to marry a lady is given a lot of food, some kind of a party. The food is taken to this gentleman at some house where people are gathered. But as the ladies take the food, terrible dances in those lorries, isn't it? Terrible dances. And we cannot say that it is safe to dance. As Christians, dances have now become seductive, generally speaking in general terms here. So that is the first argument. It's no longer beneficial, but harmful. And that's true. Number two, there is a high percentage of alcohol in alcoholic drinks. There is a high percentage in many of these alcoholic drinks. In the Old Testament, they say the alcoholic percentage in wine would be between 2% to 4%, or even 5%. They could not even reach 14%. In most of these alcoholic drinks, the percentage begins from 40% and upwards. In some instances, like spirits, you have 75% of these alcoholic drinks. 40% in some cases, 75%. So the amount of alcohol if we are to say it in terms of percentages, it is much higher than people have taken in the past. How then can we say it is safe for us? You go in any shop, they will tell you alcohol content 40%, 75%. And should Christians take alcohol with that high percentage? Now, this increase in percentage is due to advanced technology. Technology has advanced. Alcohol industries are able to increase the alcoholic percentage at a faster rate. So that is a second argument. Number three, the third argument would be that alcoholic drinks being produced are abundant, and as a consequence, they are destructive. We have an abundance of alcohol, and as a consequence of that, this abundant production of alcohol has led to destruction of lives. In the olden days, in the Old Testament times, alcohol would not be produced as abundantly as it is now because of advanced technology. Wine industries are able to churn out plenty of alcohol. It's available everywhere. You don't have to walk in Zambia. I doubt if you have to walk 50 meters from where you are to find alcohol. You can find it easily, everywhere, in every street. There's some place where alcohol is being sold. Supermarkets, many shops. There is abundance of alcohol. And this abundance has led to destruction. That is my third argument. And of course, where there is destruction, there will be other consequences. There will be health issues. People damage their health as a result of taking alcohol. There will be costs in terms of the courts. There will be a chain of consequences. And these are things that believers sometimes rarely think about. Number 4. Not only is alcohol abundant, society does not put limits on alcohol intake these days. A person can take whatever amount of intake they want. It's very common to see celebrities given to alcohol, politicians, and others. Alcohol is available at all social celebrations. No limits. It is sad that in our country, that alcohol is offered, or people drink alcohol during a funeral. I don't know about Kenya. There's a funeral somewhere. Maybe the first day people will gather at the house. The second day, some people will carry beers in their cars. While people are mourning, they'll be drinking alcohol near the funeral house. This is very common. Many celebrations, official government celebrations, whatever celebrations, alcohol is available. And there is no limit on alcohol intake. And surely, the question we must ask ourselves is, should we then take it in moderation? It's no longer beneficial, as we have said. There is high percentage of alcohol than before. And then it is being produced abundantly. And many lives are being ruined as a result of alcohol. Number 4, there are no limits on alcohol intake. The person who doesn't drink is the dull one. It's the odd one. The one who is clever, the one who is intelligent, the one who understands life and enjoying life is the person who gives himself to alcohol. That's how our society has become. If you go in Zambia to some of the cemeteries where we bury the dead, sometimes young people during the day drink beers in the graveyards, spending time drinking beers in the graveyards. Now, with all those factors in mind, dear brethren, I don't think it is right for Christians to take alcohol, even in moderation. But number 5, there are Bible passages that challenge alcohol intake by implication. We read one of them, Ephesians chapter 5. It says, "You were once darkness, but you are now light in the Lord. Walk as children of light." Of course, it's not saying don't drink, but there is a principle there which we must apply, that we are to shun anything that promotes sin. And alcohol does promote sin. We are children of light. If 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22 says, "Avoid all appearances of evil." That is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22. Avoid all appearances of evil. Not just sin itself, but anything that could lead to sin. And alcohol is one of those things that could lead a person to sin. So this scripture suggests to us that alcohol must be avoided. Philippians 4, chapter 8, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, think on these things. 1 Peter 2, verse 9, which talks about the fact that we are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a chosen generation. So these arguments I have brought out to you should compel a Christian not to drink alcohol, even in moderation. We have seen how some of our family members have been ruined by alcohol. Let me just be a bit personal here. I don't like it. Me and my wife support children whose father is an alcoholic. He has abandoned them. He doesn't pay school fees. He doesn't buy food. He's lost a job as a teacher. Now, these were neighbors when I was in Impika. I came to know them. And we have had to support them in school, medical expenses. And now surely, how do I then even entertain the idea when I have seen the distraction it has brought in one family? How then do I even entertain and say, well, it's all right, he was taking it too much, I'll only take it in moderation? I don't think our consciences would give us peace when we have seen the destruction that alcohol has done. Sometimes in our Sunday schools, some years ago, we had children come to church for Sunday school without shoes, without having washed themselves. And you ask them, why are you coming like this? You haven't washed yourself. They would say, Dad and Mom came drunk. Abandoned. No, dear friends. Alcohol, we must abstain from alcohol. And in Zambia, speaking, I think even in Kenya, you will not be taken seriously. Even if you say, I take it in moderation, no one will take you seriously, that you are a serious Christian. Their thinking will be, you are a pretender. Now, let me look at some 3 arguments again from the New Testament, 4 arguments or so from the New Testament. These 5, I'm saying, one cannot dispute with these facts, that alcohol has become harmful, that the percentage of alcohol is very high, and that it is being churned out in abundance everywhere. Alcohol is found. Number 4, there are no limits on alcohol intake. But there are also Bible passages that challenge alcohol intake. Maybe not directly, but by implication. The New Testament arguments. Number 1, we believe that believers, we believe in what we call the priesthood of all believers. think you remember the incident in the Old Testament when Nadab and Abihu were struck by the Lord. They offered strange fire, the fire that God had not commanded. And I think in the next chapter, the Lord tells Moses that whoever was going to function in the tabernacle, they should not do so under the influence of alcohol. Priests, high priests, were to abstain from alcohol completely. Completely. The Lord threatened to deal with anyone who would function carelessly under the influence of alcohol. But then, if we as believers are priests, one would argue, and rightly so, that even for us, the intake of alcohol is not right. If we are a kingdom of priests, you and me are priests. We may not wear the robes. We believe in the priesthood of all believers. We represent people before God in the sense that we pray for them. We take the gospel to them. How then, we as a kingdom of priests, how should we then entertain the intake of alcohol? That's the argument, and a good argument one would make. So a Christian should not just say, well, it was only forbidden for the church leaders. Anyone else can take it. Number two, the apostles and many believers abstained from alcohol. The apostles and many believers abstained from alcohol. For this, I want us to turn to 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23. 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 23. 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 23. This is Paul giving advice to Timothy as a pastor at Ephesus. Verse 23, drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake and thine often infirmities. Because the main point there is that he is urging Timothy to be careful about his health. As pastors, that is something we should do. We mustn't be so careless, working too much, eating too much, sleeping for very few hours. Timothy must take care of his health. But this is what I want you to see. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine. What that verse means is that Timothy was not taking wine, not even in moderation. And Paul is telling him, use a bit of it for your infirmities, for thy stomach's sake. It is believed that, or in these days, a little wine would be medicinal. The wine taken would kill certain bacteria that would cause ulcers in the stomach. So that's how Paul is arguing. Timothy was not taking alcohol. Otherwise, why would he tell him? Why would it make sense for Paul to say, drink no longer water, but use a little wine? He was not taking any wine. But Paul advises him, use a bit of it. Now, the question is, how did Timothy, or where did he learn, or who taught him not to take alcohol? Timothy was a disciple of the Apostle Paul. I believe he must have learned it from the apostles. And so we can take that as our example. Timothy learned from the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul never took alcohol. And the apostles and many believers have abstained from alcohol. But number 3, we are commanded to be sober in the scriptures, isn't it? To be sober. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be sober. To be sober means not to have what we might call intoxicants. Things that affect your mind in such a way that you are not able to make the right judgment, the right decision. We are to be sober at all times. Now, we won't be sober if we take even a little bit of alcohol. For the reasons I've given earlier, that the alcohol content is very high. Would you be comfortable for someone to operate on you in a theater and he's got a bottle of whiskey nearby and says, well, I won't take too much, I'll just take a glass. Whatever amount he takes, the soberness will go. So if we are to be sober, if we are to make the right judgment, the right decisions, we are to abstain from alcohol. But number 4, and this is my last point, we are to set a good example. We are to set a good example to believers. Timothy again is told by Paul, be an example to the believers. Be an example to the believers in various ways, in speech, in charity. He mentions the areas where Timothy was to be an example. And then for us, if we are taking alcohol in moderation, not taking it too much, how are we going to be good examples? In our country, if a non-believer sees you taking alcohol at home, they will rule you out as a serious Christian. You are not setting a good example. You may take it in moderation, but for them, they may not take it in moderation. They will go all the way. Now, I know that there are believers who have little fridges in their bedrooms, and they put a bit of alcohol in these fridges. Just drink it in the bedroom. And I don't know what example you are setting to your children. You have some alcohol in the bedroom. You haven't put it in the kitchen where people can see it. Somewhere in the bedroom. But even that is wrong, because you are setting a bad precedence for your children. To not be long before they follow the same path. Dad and mom were taking a bit of alcohol. At the end of each year, my wife is given bottles and bottles of of wine, you know. But I'm glad that I haven't even seen one in the home. I don't know, maybe she just leaves them. Maybe after being given, it's given to someone else. Yeah. So we are to be examples. So brethren, with those 5 arguments I gave you at first, and these 4, Christians are to abstain from alcohol.